When I think back to that time, I often catch myself realizing how easily we can deceive ourselves. I was 23 years old. I was dating a girl named Alice. We met in the most ordinary way, through friends at a party. She laughed so sincerely that I wanted to laugh with her. Not because of the joke, but simply because there was someone in the room who made the world feel lighter. After just a few dates, I knew this wasn't just a crush. It was something more. A sense of ease, trust, a feeling of home whenever she was near. Over time, things got more serious. We talked about moving in together, spent evenings browsing cozy apartments online, sitting in my tiny room and sharing dreams. Baby names? Yes, and it didn't feel silly. It felt natural. I pictured her beside me 5, 10, 20 years from now. But there was one person who didn't share my happiness, my mother. The first time I brought Alice home, my mom was polite. Too polite. Her smile didn't quite reach her eyes. She asked a lot of questions: where Alice worked, what her family did, what her future plans were. After that visit, my mom started dropping comments like, "You're still young, son. You need to focus on yourself, not tie yourself down." Or, "Real love comes with time. Don't rush into anything." I tried to brush it off. Alice was amazing. She supported me when I was stressed from work. She made my favorite meals even when she came home exhausted. She taught me to be softer with the world. In my eyes, she was a treasure. So I chose to believe that my mom was just worried. That she was afraid I might make a mistake. And that, over time, she would see what a wonderful person Alice truly was. I was sure everything would work out. At first, it was just small things. Alice started texting less. Where we used to send each other silly memes or random "thinking of you" messages during the day, now there would be hours of silence. When I asked if everything was okay, she would smile and say she was just busy, that work was exhausting lately. I believed her. Of course, people have ups and downs. Not every day can be fireworks and poetry. But then the cancellations began. We had plans: dinner, a movie night, a short weekend trip we had talked about for months, and suddenly she had excuses. Deadlines. Family obligations. Not feeling well. I remember one Saturday night in particular. I had booked a small cabin out of town, thinking we could get away for a while, just the two of us. I even packed her favorite snacks, the dumb little things she loved, like sour candy and peach iced tea. At the last minute, she called me, not even a text, and said she couldn't make it. Something about a family emergency. Her voice sounded distant. Cold. Not the way someone sounds when they're sad to miss a trip with the person they love. That night, I sat alone in that stupid cabin, surrounded by silence. And for the first time, a real doubt crept into my mind. Is she pulling away from me? But I didn't want to believe it. I told myself she just needed space. That if I gave her time, everything would go back to normal. That's what love is supposed to be, right? Patience. Trust. I kept holding on to hope. Even when everything inside me started whispering that something was terribly wrong. It happened on an ordinary Wednesday evening. I wasn't expecting it. We had planned to meet at my apartment, nothing fancy, just dinner and a movie. I even bought the ingredients for her favorite pasta. I remember waiting by the window, watching for her car lights to pull into the driveway. When she finally arrived, she looked different. Tired. Distant. Guarded. She barely smiled when she saw me. We sat on the couch, a few feet apart, a distance that felt like an entire ocean. She fiddled with the sleeve of her sweater, avoiding my eyes. I knew. I didn't know the words yet, but I knew. Finally, she took a deep breath and said, "I think we need to talk." That phrase. The death sentence of so many relationships. I nodded, my throat dry, my heart pounding so loudly I could barely hear her next words. "I've been thinking a lot lately, and I don't think we're right for each other anymore." She kept her gaze fixed on the floor. I managed to whisper, "Where is this coming from?" Her hands were shaking slightly as she spoke. I need to focus on myself. I need space to figure out who I am. I think it's better if we end things now, before we hurt each other more. It didn't make sense. 2 months ago, we were talking about apartments. About vacations. About forever. And now, suddenly, we were strangers. I asked her, point blank. Is there someone else? She shook her head quickly, maybe too quickly. No. It's not about anyone else. It's just me. I'm sorry. And just like that, it was over. No dramatic fight. No yelling. Just a quiet ending to something I thought was supposed to last a lifetime. She stood up, said goodbye, and left. I didn't move for a long time. I sat there on the couch, staring at the half-cooked pasta still on the counter, the unopened bottle of wine on the table, the silence pressing down on me like a weight. Somewhere deep down, a voice whispered, "This isn't the whole story." But I was too broken in that moment to listen. The weeks after the breakup were a blur. I went through the motions of life, work, errands, sleep, but everything felt empty. There was a dull ache in my chest all the time, like a bruise that wouldn't heal. I stopped checking my phone every few minutes, hoping to see her name. Stopped replaying our last conversation in my mind, trying to find the exact moment when everything fell apart. Stopped believing that maybe, somehow, she would come back. But life has a funny way of refusing to let you move on peacefully. One evening, about 3 weeks after she left, I went to her apartment. I know, it sounds pathetic. I told myself I just needed closure. I had left a few things there, a hoodie, some books, an old photo frame. She agreed to let me pick them up. No drama, no emotions. Just logistics. When I arrived, she wasn't home yet. She told me over the phone. "I left your stuff in a box by the door. Just grab it, no need to wait." As I bent down to pick up the box, something caught my eye. An envelope was lying half-hidden under the edge of a cabinet. At first, I wasn't going to touch it. It wasn't my business anymore. But curiosity got the better of me. It wasn't sealed, just a crumpled piece of paper sticking out. And then I saw it. A printed bank transaction. A significant amount of money, much more than her usual salary, had been transferred into her account just a month ago. And the name of the sender? It stopped me cold. It was my mother's name. I stared at the slip, rereading it again and again, my mind refusing to process what my eyes were seeing. What the hell? At first, I thought maybe it was a mistake. Maybe it was a loan. Maybe it was for something innocent. But then I checked the date. The transfer happened just 3 days before the night she broke up with me. My hands were shaking. My mouth went dry. My heart, already battered, twisted with a new, sharper pain. There had to be an explanation. There had to be. But deep down, in a place I didn't want to admit existed, I already knew. This wasn't a coincidence. This was betrayal. From the two people I trusted the most. I left her apartment in a daze. The box of my things sat forgotten in the passenger seat as I drove home, replaying the discovery over and over in my mind. There had to be a reason. There had to be. My mom wouldn't do something like that. She might be controlling, overprotective even, but she wouldn't, by my breakup. Would she? I barely slept that night. I kept staring at the transaction slip I had stuffed into my jacket pocket, as if somehow it would explain itself. By morning, the doubt had hardened into something colder. Determination. I needed answers. I started simple, checking public banking information. It was her, my mother's full name, from her primary account. No mistake. I looked closer at the details. The description line for the transaction was blank. No loan note. No message. Just a large sum of money dropped into Alice's account with no explanation. I texted Alice. "Can we talk? Please. I just need to understand." It sat on read 4 hours before she finally replied. "Fine. Tomorrow. Neutral place." Neutral place. Like I was some kind of danger. We agreed to meet at a quiet coffee shop we used to like, back when things were good. The next day, I sat there, staring into a cold cup of coffee, my stomach twisted into knots. When Alice walked in, I barely recognized her. She looked thinner, nervous. Her eyes flicked around the room like she expected a trap. She sat down without a word. No hug. No smile. I pulled the transaction slip out and placed it between us. She flinched. "What is this, Alice?" I asked, my voice low but trembling. For a long time, she said nothing. Just stared at the paper. Then, finally, she whispered, "I'm sorry." I leaned in. "Sorry for what?" Her hands trembled as she picked up the paper, crumpled it between her fingers. And then, in a voice so quiet I barely heard it, she said, "Your mom, she made me an offer. I tried to refuse. I did. But she said she would make my life hell if I didn't leave you." I stared at her, not understanding. "Make your life hell how?" Tears welled in her eyes. "She said she would ruin my career. She would tell lies to my employer. She would pressure my family. She knew things about me, personal things I trusted you with. She said she would leak them if I didn't walk away quietly." It felt like the floor dropped out from under me. I wanted to scream. I wanted to believe she was lying. But deep down, I knew she wasn't. My own mother had blackmailed the woman I loved into leaving me. And worse, she had paid for the privilege. For a long moment, I just sat there, staring at her, feeling like the world had gone completely off its axis. The clatter of coffee cups, the low hum of conversations, all of it faded into a dull, meaningless noise. It was just me, Alice, and the wreckage of everything we had built. "Why didn't you tell me?" My voice cracked halfway through the sentence. She wiped at her eyes, mascara smudging slightly under her fingertips. "I wanted to." She sniffled, her voice hoarse. "Every single day, I wanted to tell you. But I knew it wouldn't matter. She would destroy me anyway. And part of me thought maybe she was right. Maybe you deserved someone better. Someone who wouldn't be such a burden." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You were never a burden, Alice. Never." The words felt useless, like trying to put out a wildfire with a teaspoon of water. She gave a hollow, broken laugh. "She made me doubt everything, even myself. Every time I thought about fighting back, she'd call me again. Remind me what would happen if I stayed." "She called you?" My stomach twisted into a tighter knot. It wasn't just one payment. It was harassment, manipulation, psychological warfare. Alice nodded, her hands wrapped tightly around the coffee cup like it was the only thing anchoring her to reality. "She kept saying you had a future, a real future, and that I would only drag you down. That if I loved you, truly loved you, I would leave." A bitter tear slid down her cheek. And like an idiot, I listened. I leaned back in my chair, feeling like I was watching my own life from the outside, a car crash unfolding in slow motion. A small, broken part of me wanted to reach across the table. To tell her we could still fix it. That love could survive anything. But a louder voice, the one that had been growing stronger ever since the night she left, whispered the brutal truth. Trust, once shattered, never fits back the same way. "Is there anything else I should know?" I asked finally, forcing the words out. She shook her head miserably. "No. That's all of it. I took the money. I left. I broke both of us because I was scared." For a moment I hated her. And then, almost instantly, I hated myself for hating her. This wasn't simple. It was heartbreak, weaponized. I stood up. She looked up at me, her face a map of sorrow. "Goodbye, Alice," I said quietly. And then I walked away, not because I didn't love her anymore, but because love, real love, can't survive on betrayal and fear. As I stepped out into the cold night air, one thing became crystal clear. This wasn't over. If my mother thought she could destroy my life and walk away clean, she was about to find out how wrong she was. I didn't call ahead. I didn't give her a warning. I just got into my car, drove to my childhood home, and knocked on the door like I was about to kick it down. When she opened it, and saw me standing there, I saw a flicker of something cross her face. Surprise? Guilt? But it was gone in an instant, replaced by her usual cool, composed expression. "Honey, what a surprise!" she said, stepping aside to let me in. I didn't move. "We need to talk," I said, my voice low, rough. "No pleasantries. No pretending." She frowned slightly but nodded, leading me into the living room. The same living room where she used to read me bedtime stories. The same place where we decorated Christmas trees and celebrated birthdays. Now it felt like enemy territory. I didn't sit down. I stood, towering over her, as she settled primly into her favorite chair. "Why did you do it?" No build-up. Just the question, naked and raw. She didn't even pretend not to understand. She smoothed the hem of her sweater and said calmly, "Because I had to." "Had to?" I repeated, disbelief cutting through my anger. "You had to bribe my girlfriend to leave me? You had to threaten her? Blackmail her?" Her mouth tightened. "You're too young to see it, but she was wrong for you," she said sharply. "She would have held you back. Wasted your potential. You have a future, a real one. And you needed someone who would lift you up, not weigh you down with her baggage." I laughed, a short, ugly sound. "So your solution was to destroy the one thing that made me happy?" She stood up then, facing me fully, eyes blazing. "I protected you," she hissed. "You'll see it one day. Maybe not now, but when you're older, when you're successful and respected, you'll thank me." I stared at her, seeing her, really seeing her, for the first time. Not as a mother. Not as a protector. As a person who believed she had the right to control my life, no matter the cost. "I won't thank you," I said quietly. "I'll never thank you for this." Her face twisted into something almost unrecognizable. Anger, pride, fear all battling behind her eyes. "You're overreacting," she snapped. "You're emotional. You'll move on and realize I did the right thing." I shook my head slowly. "You didn't just destroy my relationship. You destroyed my trust in you." The silence between us stretched until it felt like it could snap. Finally, she said, almost pleading, "I did it because I love you." I turned toward the door. "Then you have a funny way of showing it." I didn't slam the door when I left. I didn't yell. I just walked away, not from my mother, but from the illusion that she had ever truly seen me as anything other than a project to manage. And for the first time in a long time, the cold air outside felt cleaner than the air in that house. I didn't go home that night. I couldn't. The walls of my apartment, once filled with laughter and warmth, now felt haunted, echoes of what used to be clinging to every corner. Instead, I drove aimlessly for hours. Through empty streets, past sleeping houses. Letting the cold night air seep into the car through the open window, trying to freeze the chaos inside my head. By the time dawn painted the sky in bruised purple and gray, I made a decision. I couldn't stay here anymore. Not in this city. Not in this life that felt like a lie built on good intentions and manipulation. I needed to leave. Not to run away, but to start over. Somewhere far enough that my mother's influence couldn't reach me. Somewhere I could figure out who I was without her hand pulling the strings. I found a small apartment in a different town a few hours away, nothing fancy, just 4 walls and a door that locked, but it was mine. Completely mine. I packed my things in silence. Clothes. Books. A few photographs I couldn't bear to part with, though not a single one featured my mother. As I loaded the last box into my car, I looked back at the life I was leaving behind. Not with regret. Not even with sadness. With clarity. Some ties, once poisoned, can't be mended. They have to be cut clean. I sent my mother one final message. "I need time. Please don't contact me. If I'm ready, I'll reach out." No response. Maybe she thought I was being dramatic. Maybe she still believed she had done the right thing. It didn't matter anymore. This was my life now. Mine to build. Mine to ruin. Mine to heal. Step by step, mile by mile, I drove toward the unknown, scared, heartbroken, but free. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't someone's project. I was just me. And that, broken as I was, had to be enough. It's been months now. Sometimes it feels like a lifetime has passed. Other times, it feels like the wound is still fresh, bleeding just beneath the surface. I think about Alice sometimes. About the life we almost had. About the tiny, ordinary moments we lost, the lazy Sunday mornings, the shared smiles over stupid jokes, the quiet reassurance of knowing someone was in your corner. I don't blame her anymore. I understand now. She was a casualty, just like me, collateral damage in a battle she never signed up for. And my mother. There's still a hollow space where my trust used to live. Some nights, I wonder if she sits in her quiet house and regrets it. If she misses me. If she even realizes what she destroyed. But then I remind myself. It's not my job to heal her guilt. It's not my job to fix what she broke. It's my job to move forward. To build a life not out of spite or anger, but out of hope. Out of choice. Some scars you carry forever. They don't disappear. They don't stop aching when it rains. But they can become a part of your story, not the part that defines you, but the part that proves you survived. And maybe, someday, I'll look back at this chapter without the sting. Maybe I'll see it for what it really was. The painful, necessary ending of one life, and the quiet, stubborn beginning of another. My life. On my terms. At last.